Goal 4. Pacing. Strong writers slow down or speed up the action in a story to emphasize the important moments of the story. Good pacing makes a story exciting to read. It's not too fast, not too slow. The definition of pacing is how quickly or slowly the writer takes the reader through the story. We practiced pacing when we did our Frozen moments. We watched the video about the game-winning home run, and then we chose moments to freeze in time by describing all the little parts of the moment. At this station, you might need to explode a moment in your story to make it slow down, or you may need to pick up the pace in some part of your story. That's what you'll be working on at this station. A good writer can take apart an important scene and describe all of its little pieces. Here's an example of a sentence with no pacing, really. The boy picked up the wooden mallet and smashed the model village into tiny pieces. It's boring. The reader's going to fall asleep. So here's how the story was written with great pacing, because it's the climax of the story. He picked up the mallet, raised it above his head. The weight of the mallet sent him slightly off balance, and he swayed a bit. Sweat broke out on his forehead like small explosions from his pores. His hair was suddenly damp, a moist lock falling across his forehead. Fastening his grip on the mallet as he held it aloft, he looked down at the village. Such a simple thing. You don't have to do anything. Let the mallet do it. Let it drop, like an atomic bomb falling from a plane. Blood drained from his arms above his head into his shoulders, flooding his heart, causing it to thump dangerously in his chest. Do it, but could not move either. He stood frozen like a statue in a park or a church, utterly unable to move, the pain spreading throughout his body now, his heartbeats thudding in his temples, trapped this way as if for eternity. Then a small darting movement to his left at the corner of his vision. Looking down, unable to move anything except his eyes, he saw a rat leaping to the bench, saw it slithering among the buildings and figures. Henry, too, leapt, startled, gasping, dropping the mallet, then watching in horror as it smashed into the village, splintering the farmhouse, sending figures askew, the old man's mother spilling out of the window. Other figures, including the old man as a boy, tumbling and falling, and then the bench itself breaking in two, like a crack in the surface caused by an earthquake, the building and figures disappearing into the crack. That's a lot more interesting than the boy picked up the wooden mallet and smashed the model village into tiny pieces. If it's an important moment in your story, like this one is, then you need to use some pacing to help your reader see and feel the experience. So these are the differences. Notice how in the excerpt that I just read, the writer described each little motion to build suspense. He picked up the mallet, raised it above his head. The weight of the mallet sent him slightly off balance and he swayed a bit. The writer also used descriptive details to show instead of tell. His hair was suddenly damp, a moist lock falling across his forehead. There was some figurative language in there as well to help the reader see the scene. Here's the example. Sweat broke out on his forehead like small explosions from his pores. The writer also used some internal dialogue to emphasize the inner conflict that was happening inside the protagonist. Such a simple thing. You don't have to do anything. This is what the boy is thinking. And then finally, the writer used a series of short sentences to build suspense. Do it, but could not. Could not move either. To improve your story, pick out the scenes that are most important. Is there a dramatic part of the rising action, or is there a climax? Is it an important part of your story? Focusing on these scenes, explode the moment. Remember our frozen moment prompt that we did earlier? Explode the moment to build suspense and help the reader picture the action in this story that you wrote. Now, go to step 3 on your directions sheet. You may view this video again as needed when making your revisions.